welcome. We're the dads of football. Make sure to like, subscribe, make sure that we can spread our gospel to football fans all over the place. And we appreciate all of those that have been watching. And we've definitely got a hot topic for today. So, Josh, the topic for today, or at least the video's title, did the Bears get fleeced in their trade of Justin Fields? What do you think?
The funny thing is, and as I'm following the different Twitter stuff that's out there and the stuff that I see on Facebook and all these fan groups and these Bears groups, and I feel like sometimes Bears fans like to wrap themselves in like a warm blanket of mediocrity, right? Like if
Mhm.
we're a little bit better than we were, but maybe not great, that's okay because we're constantly like it's this hopefulness of constantly wanting to improve. Um, and I feel like for a long time, Justin Fields, by long time, I'm talking relative, right? So the last six
Mhm.
months, we've fallen in love with the human being that he is. And you and I talked about this in a previous podcast. Um, I I don't think in any way, shape, or form did the Bears do right by Justin Fields. Were they trying this year to improve that? Were they hoping that would lead to tremendous success and he'd still be here and we wouldn't be having this conversation? Absolutely. Um, but I think when a guy over the course of his career averages 174 yards in the games that he starts and 166.9 yards in the games that he played passing, on top of the fact that he was 10 and 28 in those 38 starts, I don't I don't know that getting a fourth round pick, if we go purely by numbers, not the exciting moments, right? Not the Monday night football, win in the fourth quarter against Pittsburgh in 2021, not the 75-yard fourth quarter drive in that game, or the 33-14 win game against the Pats, or the 178 yards rushing against Miami that has everyone feeling ooh so gooey that he can eventually be a Lamar Jackson kind of player. Um, I think if you go purely by that,
If you go purely by
six
that, they got
purely
fleeced or
by
they
those
didn't get
numbers,
fleeced.
by just purely by those numbers, a 6th round pick is brutal. A 4th round pick is a little bit better. I don't know if you can call it a fleecing when they allowed it to happen in order to take care of someone that was, relatively speaking, beloved in Chicago,
All right.
or at least
Now,
by a good cross section of fans.
now I've got a take on that. I feel that the Bears PR team has been very good in how
Oh
they've
yeah,
packaged this because yes, I'm gonna say it. They got fleeced. They got fleeced bad. All right. I mean, the job that the Pittsburgh Steelers have done to improve at the quarterback position very cheaply. It's like something where I'm just like, bravo, you did a good job. You've built a
right.
good, solid quarterback room going into the 2024 season.
Sure.
I think they've done a good job. Now, is it going to be a permanent solution? No, but they're taking a flyer on Justin Fields. They're taking a shot, and all they had to give up is probably a 6th round pick. Because let's be honest, as long as Russell Wilson doesn't get injured, I
Right.
don't think they're gonna play Justin all that much.
I so again, the word fleece there, I guess, is where like I get a little hung up because I don't think this was a matter of we know we're getting screwed or not. I think this was we're going to allow this to happen because allegedly, in some of the information that's come out from Courtney Cronin, who has talked to Justin's people, is that they had indicated like we don't have an interest in some of the other teams that are um, uh, trying to work their way into the equation to get him. They wanted to go to Pittsburgh, right? Which why wouldn't you? You're going back to a familiar region. You're going to a place that runs a play action offense. That's why Russell Wilson's there. Not to mention the fact he fashioned his game over the last few years over Russell Wilson's success with Seattle 3-4 years ago. And I know as a kid he talked about Cam Newton being his guy, but by the time he came to the NFL, I mean, come on, 4 years ago we're talking about Russ Wilson being a top 3 quarterback in the NFL. Aaron Rodgers, Russell
True.
Wilson, Patrick Mahomes, right? So Fields starts building his game allegedly on Russell Wilson. So it sounds like Fields' camp was hoping that he would end up there anyways. I and look, I this is maybe the warm hopefulness I get into with the Bears myself as a fan. But it feels like, and we talked about this in the previous podcast, it feels like they conceded getting less in order to help the player more. And how often do we really hear that in professional sports?
And
You're not
again,
wrong. I'm not
I
disagreeing with you, but
that's what they're saying. That's the way they're going to put it now.
yeah,
I don't really think that they had a whole bunch of options. Let's put it this way, okay? I'm
yeah,
gonna put a scenario here. Let's say, okay, that Courtney Cronin, who's obviously a great reporter, very kind, very sweet. I've had the pleasure of interviewing her, as you know, for
yeah,
Riders Week. Um, her information is there are four other teams involved, but
right.
they decided to go with the Steelers because that's what Justin wanted. Awesome. What do you really think those four other teams offered up? I'm going to tell you right now, I don't think any of those teams offered up more than a fourth round pick.
No way.
So the Bears just say, okay, well, we got four other teams offering us at best a fourth round pick. Here's what we're going to do with you, Steelers. We'll call it a sixth round pick, but to make us feel better, if he plays X amount of snaps, then we'll move it to a fourth round so we don't feel like we got ripped off as bad.
So
That's what I think happened.
I think if we were to only go what happened the last 3 or 4 days,
That's what I'm
and
saying.
and you take that bubble and you say, okay, here's where we're at. Absolutely. But I don't think in this 3 4 day window is where they blew this. I think
No.
where they have really screwed up is a month ago,
Yes.
or as soon as they could have traded, they should
Yes.
have traded, or
Yes.
you wait until right before the draft when someone maybe isn't in love with whomever they're considering, and now you trade him, or because he didn't cost a damn thing, you keep him. And
Yes.
the only problem with that is a football and a business decision. It would make it nearly impossible for whomever they draft, assuming they go with Caleb Williams now, it would be nearly impossible for him to walk into camp and have a fair, and I'm not talking with the coaching staff, have a fair opportunity to win teammates over and fans over. That's not going to happen if Fields is there. So to me, that third option of just keeping him, let him compete was never going to happen. But where the Bears have completely botched this, and this feels like so many Bears opportunities, as warm as I feel towards current management, starting with Kevin Warren making its way down through polls, it 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 just feels like a month ago they either thought we're going to be able to get a ton, so we'll wait until people start realizing how important he is, or they just didn't take into consideration the math of all these other quarterbacks waiting to go somewhere. And I guess for me as a Bears fan, this is a good thing for Justin Fields. I'm happy for the kid. He's immensely talented. Good luck to him, right? But he is just another sad story in the, hey, we got Jay Cutler. Hey, and I'm just talking last 15 years.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, we got Jay Cutler. Things are going to be great. Hey, we've got Mitch Trubisky. Things are going to be great. Hey, we got Justin Fields. Things are going to be great. Justin Fields is that cautionary tale about coming to Chicago, right? Trying to play quarterback here. So they did right by him. I'm good with that. I'm good with that.
Well,
It's
and what you
everything the
said,
Bears did before.
that to me all works up to the
For
fleecing.
sure.
You had the chance. I think they had the chance to jettison him all the way back then. And here's where I'm going to say, I don't think they knew. And I said it back in previous videos. I don't think they knew what they wanted to do yet.
No.
And their inaction cost them
Right.
dearly because of all the things you just said. I think that they didn't anticipate how the teams were going to be like,
Right.
you know what? We can go sign Kirk Cousins. We don't need a Justin Fields down here in Atlanta,
Right.
which, to be honest, probably would have been the best fit for him. I think Atlanta
Yes.
would have been,
Yeah,
especially
we
with the
talked about
type
this
of
before.
play that you've seen, a guy that's a mobile quarterback. I mean,
Right.
I'm sorry. I'll still say this. I think Kirk Cousins is going to be a disaster in Atlanta. I think it's going to be not good because you have an older quarterback that's got now a serious health issue that he's coming back
Right.
from. And we've seen older quarterbacks a la Aaron Rodgers try to go out in older age and how quickly they break down. I'm just thinking it's going to be, he might have a few good games. He might, flash that arm a little bit,
Yeah.
but for the most part, I just think he's going to fall flat. I think you could have done much better off if you'd gotten a young guy. So I think that's a plus. They paid him so much money
Right.
to be an old guy playing quarterback, and virtually you would have had a 1 year out with Justin Fields to see if you really want to keep him or not. And you could have gone that route. I just think that's going to work out bad for them. Now, we've talked about Atlanta in the past. Now, I'm having a bit of a brain fart here. Who was the quarterback that they had that went to the Colts?
To the Colts. Well, Desmond Ritter went to the Cardinals.
Yeah, no. Who was
So,
the old quarterback that went to the Colts from the Falcons and then retired?
oh, Matt Ryan.
Matt Ryan.
Oh, yeah.
That's what I see. I see Kirk Cousins possibly being a Matt Ryan type dude who goes off to another land and just falls flat. And he's going to get paid no matter what. And let's be honest, it wasn't like he was a ball of consistency before he got injured in the Vikings organization.
Right.
So, yes, he's got some weapons and there's some guys there, but I don't know, man. I'm just not sold on him. I never have been sold on him. I think I much rather would have had a younger option that maybe could still pan into something. And here's where you brought up a lot of stats on a per game basis. I get that. What I look at overall are the stats of the player. And when I look at Justin Fields in 13 games last season, having 2,500 yards, 600 plus rushing. I mean, people forget about the rushing that, all right, he had 16 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. Right there, that's an improvement from the previous seasons. He's gotten better every single year. His completion percentage went up. If he had those other 4 games, he could have easily passed 3,000 yards. And then you're talking similar stats to Russell Wilson in a similar amount of time. And on top of that, you also have probably close to 1,000 yards rushing, plus another 4+ touchdowns that you have right there. I mean, that's the thing. He really had 20 touchdowns overall. People forget about the other weapon, his legs. I'm not ready to say that, oh, no, he's a terrible quarterback. I also think he didn't have the best system either.
I'm definitely so specific to Fields, right? And looking at it from a statistical perspective, last year in fourth quarter, he still only had a 64.4 quarterback rating. Like he was one of the worst in the league in the fourth quarter. Now, I would actually, and you and I have talked about this, not
86.3 overall, though.
86.3 overall, but 64 in the fourth quarter. And you could argue, and this is where I feel like they have failed him. And whether this was gutsy or whether this was like they were being cautious with him, it felt like by the time we got to the fourth quarter, there were very little adjustments being made by the offense in order to put him in a position to succeed. So I think that number is unfair. The reason why I say that is I am with you. I think Justin Fields to Atlanta sounded a lot sexier than Kirk Cousins to Atlanta. However, and I was thinking about this a little bit this morning, is it possible the Kirk Cousins to Atlanta, you are paying him to teach a young quarterback that they're going to draft to be a professional quarterback? Because of all the things you want to say about Kirk Cousins, and there's no question he's not necessarily been a model of consistency. The guy approaches his teammates the right way. He approaches 100%. The game the right way.
Yes.
That's why, when you say Kirk Cousins, and then I think you referenced Aaron Rodgers and you talked about breaking down. Aaron Rodgers didn't break down. He had a catastrophic injury. But that being said, he is an older quarterback. What are they really going to get with him from a team like that is 2 or 3 years away, albeit in a bad division? It feels like Kirk Cousins might be a very different situation financially, a lot like Russ Wilson. Like, we're going to bring in this older quarterback. We're going to bring in a younger quarterback. This is where I think the Steelers have been brilliant. Now you have Russ Wilson, who, if he plays like he did last year, which is significantly better than Kenny Pickett did, they're going to win 2-3 more games, and now they find themselves in the playoffs. And then they've got Justin Fields to learn behind him. Whereas Atlanta, Kirk Cousins, are they going to draft a kid? Are they still working around to find somebody else to learn behind him? It's fascinating. Again, that's why the fleece thing. It's not so much that the Bears got fleeced, although they did when you look at it.
Long term, they got fleeced.
I think they absolutely botched everything from a business and football perspective with Justin Fields from the beginning of his career to how they've handled this trade, their expectations of what they could get if they waited. All of it feels like just a complete mess. Pace goes and picks him up in the, with the 11th pick, right in the first
11th
round.
pick,
And we all, we're all kind of excited because of who he was. He was weeks away from just having played in the national championship. And from that point until now, everything they've done for, with, and now without Justin Fields just continues to show how poor, at the very least, how poorly this was handled. Everything for Justin Fields. That's why, again, that's why the fleecing thing, yes, purely from a trade perspective. But God, is it just feels so much bigger than that. I mean, could you screw up any more with one player?
Well, and that's where I've generally liked the job that Poles has done overall.
Yes.
I wonder how much outside influence is now forcing his hand in what he has to do, and is basically forcing him to make moves that could easily make him see his way out of Chicago if this all blows up in his face.
I hope not,
Because
because
let's just say it. If Caleb Williams has a bad season as a rookie, he's done.
oh yeah,
They're all done.
well,
And then we're in the same boat that we were before, because
for sure.
Eberflus isn't going to be there. You're going to have new offensive people. You're probably going to have a new GM. And we're in the same situation that we've been in time and time again.
So if they draft Caleb Williams, there is no way, unless you're talking about from an interception number, there is no way that the year that almost whoever the quarterback is going to be in Chicago, there's no way that next year's year will be worse than the year that Fields had this year. Not to say that it was a terrible year, because it clearly wasn't if he plays all 17 games. But I think what they've addressed with the team thus far, the signing of the trade for Keenan Allen, right? You're shoring up your receivers. You're obviously trying to get some depth on the offensive line so you don't have happen what happened last year. And if Tevin Jenkins is healthy, the guy was an animal last year when he was healthy. So I think bare minimum, you're getting a good year out of Caleb Williams next year. I don't think you're getting a Stroud-esque year. I think that is way too much to ask of a player. But I think one way or the other, next year at this time, we'll be talking about this. And if I had to guess, it is a comparable year to Fields this year, maybe a little bit better, just from the standpoint that the Bears have addressed other needs. So they might win another game or two. I mean, the Bears have the third, and we'll talk about this later. They have the third worst schedule based on last year's team's winning percentage. I mean, it's the Bears are in a position to win 10 games. They've already addressed some needs. And
if they win any more, I always said if they win 9 games or more, it's a success considering
absolutely.
the path that they've been on. Again, and Bears fans hate it when I say this. Like, here's the thing that annoys me about Bears fans. And remember, I don't recognize myself as a Bears fan.
Yep.
So here's the thing that drives me crazy. It's like they feel like they're entitled to be in the playoffs. Like, oh, it's
Right.
playoff or bust. And it's like, that's not how you build a team. That's not the way it works. You have to make progress. So you are guaranteed nothing. And then to say that you got better, but fire everybody, when I hear people say that, like, it drives me crazy. It's like, if you win more games than the previous years without dropping off, you're going up. Let them do their thing and go up before you start talking about firing everybody. So to me, if they win 9 games or more, then to me, then everyone should be coming back. I don't care if they make the playoffs or not at that point. They got better. They had a rookie quarterback. And I will say the same thing about Caleb Williams. Give the kid a chance. He's still young if he has a bad season. And I don't want people, again, they assume because I thought Justin Fields should have deserved more of a chance in Chicago, that I think that Caleb Williams is going to be a bust, that I don't think he's going to be better. All signs are pointing to Caleb Williams being the best quarterback in this draft. And I don't really argue with that. I think, yes, from the pure talent that he has, he's got the most natural talent out of any quarterback that's out there. But we can't predict, is he gonna be a bust or not? That's the thing that you can't predict who's gonna be a bust, because if you could, then you wouldn't take him in the first round.
Right.
So we don't really know.
I think it's going to be interesting. I do. I think, and I've said this before, they draft Caleb Williams. They've addressed some needs. The Bears are going to be better. They have a weak schedule. They're in a position to give the appearance that everything is going to continue to move in the right direction. To be honest, I think it's probably that way if Justin Fields had stayed. But we're not playing for next year. We're not trading for next year. We're not drafting for next year. We are drafting for the future. And in this case, the Bears totally mishandled everything with Fields from the jump, led to obviously, I think we both agree in that this was a bad trade purely from a football perspective. I like the human story behind it. But I think we're at a position now and at a point now where maybe I'll have to be a Pittsburgh Steelers fan, not because Justin Fields is there, because at the very least, it seems like, and Mike Tomlin is for me one of the top 2-3 quarterback or coaches in the entire NFL. I love the guy. I think you're going to look at a Steelers team who has done the right things and is probably moving in a healthier direction from a wins perspective now. Let's just hope that Caleb Williams is the future.
Well, that's going to take us to our next video in just a little bit. Before we go and sign off, a couple things I want to say. Despite what I call getting fleeced for a pick, I'm sorry, right. Whenever you give up a former first rounder for a sixth rounder, I'm going to say you got fleeced.
Yes.
The Bears can still win if they have a good draft, if they get Caleb Williams and guys that are really good at the other spots, they could still win in all this despite having a bad spot right there, which I think was pretty bad. Now, the one other thing I'm going to bring up, Kenny Pickett, who we both agree is a terrible quarterback.
Yeah,
I won't say terrible. He's not a quality starting quarterback.
Correct.
Okay. He's probably a decent backup that can manage a game for you, considering that they went 10-7 last year with him over the majority of the snaps. What I'm going to say about that is they traded him off with definitely lesser stats than Justin Fields and lesser ability. And they improved their draft status, got moved up from a 4th rounder to a 3rd rounder, and got 2 late round picks on top of it. So they improved the spot and got 2 additional picks.
Yep.
To me, you got a much better return for Kenny Pickett than we got for Fields. And there's no arguing that. I mean, if that doesn't say it, I don't know what does.
I think what makes me sad is when you start talking about, like, number one, something that we didn't even say yet, that 6th round pick, which can be a 4th, is in 2025, not 2024.
No,
which makes it that much more painful. And some of the best players to come out of the 4th round, and this is gonna make you vomit, right? Mm-hmm. So I know they talk about, sometimes you get some receivers out of the 4th round, but the best quarterback, let's just be hypothetical. Next year, maybe they have to get another quarterback. I'm sure they won't, but you're talking guys, 4th round. Norm Van Brocklin is the best quarterback to ever come out of the 4th round. For the fans at home, that's 1949 from the Rams. He was like a 1950s all-decade team, right? So now you're talking about a guy who's forever old. Now, let's say you start looking at some linemen. The linemen look good. Maybe, in terms of historically, you've got guys like John Runyon. You've got guys like Steve Wallace. You've got Jerry Kramer, our Packer fan from the 50s. Jared Allen, Kansas City picked him in 04. So if, and this won't happen, but if by some stretch of luck, the Bears have a good year this year, win 9-10 games, then next year they get that, let's hope that Fields plays a bunch and that moves into that 4th round spot. I don't know. Maybe they end up with Tom Jackson, or maybe they end up with Harry Carson. Maybe they end up with Asante Samuel, multiple Pro Bowl winner. Because those are the guys that come out of the 4th round. The sad fact is that's a dream.
Yes.
And to your
point, play the odds,
that's
man.
Probably not going to happen.
Play the odds. The odds are you're going to get a 6th round pick, a guy that's may not even make your training camp as a 6th round pick that we're probably not going to be talking about.
2 Bears names that went in the 4th round. This is only based on if Fields even played. Eddie Jackson was a 4th round pick, right? He's now gone, by the way. And then everyone's favorite former coach's name, Dick Duran, was picked in the 4th round. Again, and this is all only if Justin Fields plays. It's that painful.
Yes, if he plays, which again, unless something happens to Russell Wilson, no. And I'll put this one out. We'll go around better. You're more likely to have a miss in the 4th round because Lord knows if we're counting misses, well, if you want to ask the average sports fan that's happy that Justin Fields is gone, you missed on a 1st rounder right there. Or we can go to a guy that's still on the roster. Velus Jones was a 3rd rounder. How's he been doing? So
brutal.
History's not good here. So we'll see what happens. Until next time, we're out.